Hi, everybody. Um, chapter 14, book one of chapter 14 of book one of the Discourses by Epictetus is titled That God Beholds All Men. Um, this discourse, I was reading through this discourse, and it sort of reminded me of the previous discourse that we just talked about, chapter 13, um, and so I was sort of reminded of this idea of, truth from the past and different God concepts of that we have now, as opposed to maybe what Epictetus was dealing with in his era. And the discourse itself is structured around, um, God created a nature, so there's nature, and that we're part of nature, and therefore, since we're part of nature, then we're absorbed within nature, which is what God created. So therefore, so I guess the overarching theme is that God sees us, and then so we should sort of accept our place within nature, and what things God gives us or doesn't give us, or what trials we have to bear, and that type of thing. So the way I interpret this, though, with my idea that I mentioned in the previous discourse about God concepts, is like God is the concept of, to me, is a concept of the sort of a system of all there is. And so this system of all there is, is composed of its various components. It's composed of the different galaxies on the high macro level, the nebula, the entire cosmos, and then, right on down to the Earth itself, within its system that it's in. So there's systems within systems, and then when we get down to the level of human, acting with nature in its system, is a planetary-wide sort of system. The natural forces of the earth, in combination with social forces of humans, as well as all of the actions and inputs of the non-human species that live on the earth, creates sort of a macro system. And this system has a sort of intelligence on its own, because it is the sum of its parts, but it's also greater than the sum of its parts. So parts of the system, this macro system, is what I would consider the concept of God, maybe, that Epictetus is talking about. Because I think if we put an imaginary being, or put a being at the head of this system, then this being would be sort of an omniscient force that would know everything. And so I don't necessarily ascribe to the fact that there's an omniscient being at the head of this system, but I don't think the system actually calls for an omniscient being in order for it to have the same sort of concept and the same sort of impact in our reality, in my reality. So this is sort of my interpretation of it. So back to the discourse, though, if we use this, if I use my definition of what I consider sort of all there is, this sort of definition shortcutted into the term God, then I can see that nature, it has its own rhythm, and it has its own laws that it operates under, and I'm within those. And then the system itself, even the social system, operates under its certain conditions that it has that are not necessarily changeable by me. So some things are going to happen in my life that I can control, and some things are going to happen in my life that I can't control. And we've talked about this in some of the other discourses. And so I think, one of the lessons of Stoicism is sort of learning what you can control, and then learning what you can't control, and then learning sort of how to let go and how to live with what you can't control. And sometimes that could be really bad, because you could have a change in fortune that you have nothing to do with you, such as an illness, or a change in job, or a change in income, or even just the natural changes as life progresses, the ups and downs of life and then into old age. A lot of this is not in our control, but what is in our control is how we react to it. And so, that's sort of one of the life lessons I think of Stoicism is recognizing when you cannot control something, and then still learning how to maintain your inner tranquility, no matter what's happening to you externally, and recognize that what's within your control and what's not in your control. So I think that was the takeaway lesson for this discourse, really. And I think I'll leave it at that, because I think that pretty much says everything that I got from the discourse, which is, yes, God, meaning this, God sees everything because, it is everything. So you're a part of everything. And so you're a part of it, and really it's a part of you. So it's impacting you, and you are impacting it. So I hope that made a little bit of sense. Anyway, the next chapter is called What Philosophy Professes, chapter 15 of book 1 of Epictetus' Discourses. So stay tuned for that. Take care.